Thank you, everyone. Thanks for hanging on to this late hour of the day. I know I'm ready to fall over, but hopefully not in the next 5 minutes. I'm talking about another activity that's part of the RRAP engagement umbrella, the community panels, which is not actually in the title. What I'm going to focus on is the way that the community panels are helping to expand conversations about technology and reef governance and the evolving methodological approach it takes. Okay, how do I advance slides? Sorry, is it this?
Yeah, top one.
Okay, thank you. Oh dear. Oh, the big green one, thank you. Okay, so I'll just quickly acknowledge my co-authors on this talk. Samantha Stone-Jovicich, who's sitting here, who's been, actually we were going to tag team today and decided there was not enough time, so it's just me up here. She can do the next one. Bruce Taylor, who is in the back there. Justine, Lacey, and Liana Williams, who contributed to early parts of this design, and just want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we're talking on today and where we normally work in Townsville and really up and down the length of the reef. Okay, why community panels and why now? Stuart has already outlined the changing management paradigm for the reef. I think that really kind of set the scene for why we're doing things in a different way. But at the same time, this intersects with this increasing agenda for social justice, equity, inclusion across a whole range of issues, but including in science. There is an increasing demand and interest in public participation in the scientific process. So this really points to new collaborative modes of doing science. It's no longer appropriate or effective to just have an expert-led technocratic approach. And if you look at any of the big ticket science journals, often those articles are actually quite hard to read, but I found it encouraging that these are really speaking about the need for this new collaborative mode of doing science, whether it's on issues of genome editing, biodiversity, making mammoths and de-extinction. It's actually proliferating this interest in bringing the public into these conversations and these processes on matters that affect them and their well-being. So yeah, lots of room in that space. So community panels are an activity and an approach that we're using in the RRAP to create a space for dialogue between the scientists who are leading these interventions and community members. At this point, we've established the first panel for the Townsville region. We put out an expression for calls for expression of interest. And we have 13 members who are just members of the community. They all have an interest and motivation in learning more about this process and participating. We're focusing on 2 of the interventions, which are around cooling and shading technologies and the 2 different coral interventions. The process involves a facilitated discussion, and we are running 5 meetings over 12 months, each one-day long meeting. We've done 2 of 5 so far, which is part of the reason we're focusing on the methodology today and not the results. You have to wait till next time to hear about those. Expected outcomes of this process is really enhancing awareness and understanding. We might see some shifts in attitudes and sentiments on both sides, not just among community members, but amongst the scientists and ourselves are included in that process. Strengthened connections and trust, which we've heard about a lot today, that's really vital. And a sense of efficacy and empowerment. So we have a sort of roadmap for the process. It's based on the canoe metaphor from a book called The Change Handbook. So that's the meeting canoe, and it starts with the pointy end, which is sort of opening up, and then we have the sharing and exploring and deliberating, and then it closes again towards some definable actions. And this takes place over 5 different meetings, as I said. Each one focuses on a different topic, a different set of questions. And there's some prep work before, of course, and then at the end will be some feedback and decision-making advice and recommendations for other processes that might follow this one. So this shows how we adapted that meeting canoe for an individual meeting. So that opening up again, the sharing, exploring, deliberating, and the closing. And the important point I want to make here is just that we've co-developed this and adapted this with the community members, as well as the intervention scientists that have been participating in this process. And we've sought feedback throughout the process, so we kind of asked what are our commitments to working together and how are we doing, and adapting as we go based on what we're hearing. Okay, some emerging insights. What has been key to making the process work? Being responsive to feedback and adapting on the go. One of the things we heard from participants that they were quite keen, once we went through all the foundational steps of how we would work together and creating a space for sharing, explaining what the process is about, they were really keen to roll up their sleeves and learn more about the science and focus on that more than the hand-holding and singing kumbaya, as we say. They really wanted to get into the detail and be able to assess some of the risks and benefits of these interventions. The scientists were also very willing to participate in person and to trust this engagement process. That's been really key so far. We've had a professional facilitator to guide us and shepherd us through the process, and that longer engagement period of a year, which means there's time to build those relationships and to also provide updates on both the science and any other community inputs. Some ongoing questions and challenges for us include when a panel is not intended to be representative of the community, and it's clearly, we know it's not, because people basically applied based on their motivations and interests. They're not the average person from the street. So what is its influence and reach, and how are we going to make that happen through these 13 individuals? How do we sustain momentum over the longer life of the panel, over the time frame? People are really busy, they've got other jobs. And how to balance the evolving methodology while maintaining a clear view of the panel aims. Just going to end on this point. Methodology does matter. The process has benefited from this evolving, flexible, and adaptive approach. That year-long engagement process has been key to creating those enabling conditions. And what we really are aiming for is just, I guess it's a question that's still to be decided. It's a step towards fostering a unique deliberative culture in the GBR. So we're planting some seeds and hoping that they grow. And I'll end on that note and stay tuned. Thank you.